We have been conscious of each other 65 years. Our life is really about making art. Never varied. You know, it's been this one thing.
Hey, coming up now.
Hi.
How's it going? Sorry, we got a lot of stuff.
My name is Judith Murray.
My name is Bob Yasuda.
We met early on in New York at Pratt Institute. We were both students there. We were about 19. I took notice of Bob because he was doing such terrific work. I connected the work to this handsome Hawaiian, and I thought, oh, that's nice. I was, I guess, always interested in art. But when I was about 8 years old, I had a blood disease. And so I was bedridden for months. And a neighbor gave me a gift of one of those painting kits. I just fell in love with oil paint. It could stick out from the canvas board. The colors were vivid. So if I was painting the view out the window, there were flowers. My flowers in oil could stand out from the canvas board. So I've been painting since I was a child and really not interested in almost anything else. Since the 70s, I've only worked with 4 colors: red, black, white, and yellow. Everything that I need, I have within those 4 colors. The Museum of Natural History, they had an exhibition of cave art, and they had the pots of pigments that were used by the cave artists. And it was red, black, white, and yellow ochre. These colors, I felt, were the universal colors of all people, of all time. There's nothing like a big painting to, you know, have all of that space. You can go close and look at the paint as if you were the painter and go on a trip. Okay, now here's Bob's studio. Oh, and this is interesting. This was designed by the architect Richard Gluckman. So he can completely close off his studio. Right? If I have people back here and he doesn't want to see them, he just closes it off, you know.
This is so incredible.
We both had our own path that we were trying to carve, and Judith, of course, had been working a lot longer than me in terms of when we first started.
Oh, but as a child, I don't know how much that counts. When Bob started, he just started like gangbusters, so.
Well, my story is a bit different. I came to New York and enrolled in Pratt Institute to study automobile design. But then I met some young people. They took me to a few galleries. I hadn't been to galleries before. I just fell overboard. So I switched over to the Fine Art program at Pratt Institute to become a painter. It's a combination of sculpture and painting. Prior to my coming to New York, I used to work shaping surfboards, working with wood. You know, I was in high school at that point. The challenge of trying to learn really engaged me a lot. It was always about trying to find new ways of painting, because when we both were in school, things weren't really established in the art world. You know, the idea of pop art, never thought of the word.
Do you two remember the very first time you met each other?
You know, I had a camera that I wanted to sell in order to buy a motorcycle. I had this dream of riding a motorcycle from coast to coast. Judith responded to the ad, bought the camera. Motorcycle blew up outside of Chicago, but got as far as that.
So I bought the camera. It was my camera. And then we started going out, and it became our camera. And then we started living together, and it became his camera. So we originally had rented a loft on Broadway and 4th Street. It was, as always, raw space. So we put in everything. And just about the time we finished, the owner had us evicted, because then he could turn around and rent it for a lot more money, because he was renting a completely finished loft. Yeah. We also have an upstairs.
This is the oldest loft in the building. We were here for several years before anybody else came in.
Was this already on the roof, or did you build the
No.
whole?
No, we built it all.
Yeah.
Can we take a quick peek at the garden?
Sure.
Oh, sure.
I know it's cold. We'll just get a quick shot.
We then looked through ads in the Village Voice for the biggest, cheapest place we could find. And this was it. It was completely raw space. So we had to do everything on it, but it was very cheap and very big. We thought it really had great potential and we loved it.
The windows were all covered, so we had to rip down because they were spray painting office furniture in here. Yeah. And so there was gray paint on everything.
Everything domestic, stove, refrigerator, bed, we would bring in at 2 in the morning with our friends, sort of haul it up. The elevator was a pull rope at the time, and we would bring things up through the front of the building, Right. It's like no one was around. And you never answered the door unless you were expecting someone. Except one time, there was a knock on the stairwell door. I don't know, I wasn't thinking, I was busy. And I said, "Who is it?" And this man with a thick Irish brogue said, "It's the building inspector." Oh my God. So what am I going to do? Oh no, this is terrible. I can't let him in. So I say, perhaps the stupidest thing, I say, "Oh, you can't come in, I don't have any clothes on." So he laughed and he said, "Do you have your exit light on?" And I look, "Oh yes, the exit light is lit." And he laughed and he said, "Okay, bye-bye." It was great. So much better than now. So much better. It was a community. There was all these stores that artists needed. Now, that's all gone. When we were younger, we loved to give parties. We used to have garden parties for 17 people because we had 17 chairs. That was the limit. It never was considered work before. It was all fun. The photo booth was in the subway on Easter Sunday. We were going to the Easter parade. That's why I have this big hat on. And it was our first date. When you're a young artist, you're sort of driven in a way. You go to openings, you meet people, you socialize. At this point, I think we're pretty relaxed about it.
There was an idea early on about trying to establish a personal signature somehow relative to art history. As we became more mature and began to understand how truly difficult it was, it actually became easier in the sense to be with each other and to understand what the other was trying to do. We often talk to each other about our work. In fact, Judith is my best critic. So.
And vice versa.
No, you can't really change the whole thing.
He's the first person, and really the only person I would ever ask for an opinion or a take on a painting that I'm working on and or struggling with. And I do that for him. So there's a lot of trust and belief in each other.
She's a very aware person and has a consciousness about things that I've always depended on.
Well, there's ups and downs. We lived together on and off before we got married. So many young people have stopped us and asked us what we thought kept us together for many years. I jokingly always tell them it's having 2 bathrooms, but basically what I'm really saying is having privacy.
That's right.
And we both have always had privacy. I've always had my own space, and Bob has had his space.
There was an automatic understanding.
And the other understanding that our life is really about making art.
Thank you so much for watching the video. The best way to support me and the continued creation of these videos is to pre-order my photography book, Artist in Residence, at the link in the description. The book is my continued documentation of the last generation of artists living in these unique studios and lofts across New York City. Thank you so much for watching these videos. It really means a lot to me and to all of the artists that are featured in them.